to you 3 verses of Scripture. They're found in Hebrews 13, 1 through 3. It says, keep on loving each other as brothers. Do not forget to entertain strangers, for by doing so, some people have entertained angels without knowing it. Remember those in prison as if you were their fellow prisoners, and those who are mistreated as if you yourself were suffering. Most of us live a pretty comfortable life. And we forget that everybody's life is not as comfortable as ours. And that there are folks who are struggling. And there are people who, they go to prison, they get out of prison, and we think, well, so now their life will be happy like ours. You should try getting a job when you get out of prison. Try finding a place to live when you have a felony background. When you try to get established, it takes almost a miracle. Last Sunday's sermon was entitled, "The God of the Impossible Can Make the Impossible Possible." And Heidi's testimony highlights that. The God of the impossible. You know, after everything she's been through, I was telling her and Mark while ago in the office, after what she's been through, if you listen to that testimony, she ought to hate every man who's ever walked on this earth. And every man who walks on this earth now. She ought to hate every one of us. If anybody has a reason to hate us, she would. But for God to take that hate out and allow her to love a man and to have a godly man to husband her is a miracle of God. And only the God of the impossible could make that impossible task possible. And what a sweet, godly man God gave to her. Mark, I admire you. I admire you. Heidi, won't you come? And she's going to share with us this morning. And now, Jan, you're her guide. She said if you can't hear, you're going to do this, so you'll let her know she can speak up.
Can you hear me, Jan?
Yes. Got her? All right. Heidi, won't you pray? I know you like to pray before you speak, so you should.
I want to. Can I thank the people for being here? Miss Joanne, thank you for being here. And Tammy, my sister-in-law, thank you. And Tracy, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Tom and Teresa, but thank y'all. And Tammy, I love you, and I thank you for being obedient to the Lord. And I'm just so grateful.
And before she's going to do this.
Thank you for you, Pastor, and John. You know, I'm just grateful that God has placed y'all into our lives.
She and Mark are going to join our church. And then as they do ministry, they're going to go out under the umbrella of our ministry. So once she goes out and shares somewhere, we want her to come back and tell us how to go. You know, whose life's got changed. Tell us about that. So that may not mean as much to you as it does a preacher who's looking to have her, to know that she is submitting herself to a local church authority and placed herself under that umbrella of protection. And so that means we want to pray for her and pray for her ministry, that God will use her and establish her as she shares that. So, you want to pray?
Yeah.
Let's pray.
Okay. Father God, I just thank you for this time. I just ask, Father, that you would increase and I would decrease, Father. That, Father, that they wouldn't see me, but they would see you, Father. I thank you for opening their hearts that they can receive, Father, not with judgmental eyes, but like the pastor said, what you can do, Father, what you can do with the life. I thank you that your word will go forth and it will not return void, but it will accomplish and prosper in the very thing that it sent, Father, that you will get glory, Father, for everything. Thank you when I open my mouth that you'll fill it with your words, with clarity, in the name of Jesus. Amen. Let me try that for a bit. But anyway, well, to start with, I had a really rough childhood. To begin with, the day that I was born, my mother, my Uncle Billy Jr., and his girlfriend were sitting around the table playing Russian roulette. My mom was 8 months pregnant, and my Uncle Billy Jr. decides to pulled the gun out and he pointed it at my mom, and instead of the gun went off, and instead of hitting my mom, it shot and killed his girlfriend right there. But back then in 1976, it was a common thing, Russian roulette, so they ruled it an accident. But anyway, from that time forth, my mom hated me. At the age of 4 months old, she tried to stick me in a bathtub and drown me. She just did not want me to begin with. But what ended up happening is at 4 months, when she stuck me in the bathtub and tried to drown me, I was given to, my dad couldn't take me, so he asked his pastor if someone in the church could take us. Well, a couple took my sister and brother, and another couple took me. And a few years later, my dad decides to come back for me. And I was about 3 or 4 at the time. And when he comes back for me, needless to say, he started giving me drugs to molest me at a young age. And so this went on for years. So by the time I'm 13, 14 years old, I'm strung out on cocaine. I'm strung out on, for Christmas and birthdays, we didn't get presents. It wasn't Merry Christmas, here's your present. It was Merry Christmas, here's your dope. You know, there was no, it's just how it was in my house. And at first, at the age of 13, 14, it was cool because we had all the older people at our house. But then, when people started leaving our house, getting in wrecks, it wasn't so cool. But after that, at 16, because when you're molested, you become very promiscuous and there's no boundaries on sex at all. And that's not the way God intended it. So I ended up in prostitution and which my mom taught me that. She would come in and out of my life. Her name was Mary Jane Smith. Literally, Jane Doe. She had told me at a young age, this is what you got to do in order to make it. You just, you know, your body ain't nothing. You sell your body, do whatever you can. You got to make a living, you know. And so that's what I did. At the age of 16 years old, I became pregnant. Not knowing who the dad was, needless to say, my grandparents stepped up and they took him because I was so young they didn't think I could take care of him. Well, then a year later, my youngest son was born. And then after that, the whole 9 months, I did crack cocaine with him. Not one time went to a doctor. Not one time. The whole 9 months, I started having contractions, ended up going to the hospital. I was having nightmares that I'd end up having a little mentally retarded baby chasing me down the hallway, you know, and not realizing the mercy of God. So what ended up happening is my youngest son, Jeremy, was born. He was addicted to crack, which was the first time that CPS got involved in. That was the first time that CPS had got involved with me. Can you hear me, Dawn? I'm going to borrow you. Thank you. Okay, so that was the first time CPS got involved with me. Well, after that, I end up, one night my dad comes in there and he's like, hey, let's smoke a joint. He said, I want to talk to you. And I was like, well, what do you mean you want to talk to me? He said, oh, we'll just smoke a joint. So we smoked a joint. My baby was he was a week old at the time, Jeremy. And we smoked the joint, we get done, and my dad looks at me and he says, I don't want you to be my daughter, I want you to be my wife. And at that age, I grabbed my baby, went and ran into the bedroom, set up against the door while my dad banged on it. And the next day, I knew I had to get out of there. So I did. The only one I knew I had was my mom. So I ran off because I knew I couldn't go around my grandparents because they don't do drugs and you can't do drugs. And I'm already addicted, so I didn't want to bring that there when they had my son. So I ended up over at my mom's house, which my mom was no better. She was living in, like that video said, a house full of roaches. I had to heat my baby's bottle up by candlelight. Well, one night she comes in there drunk. She's running her mouth and stuff. Well, I had about all I could take of that. So I laced my boots up, and she grabs my baby, locks him in the car with her, my baby's screaming. So needless to say, I go across the street, call my grandpa y'all to come get him. And he does. And I beat the crap out of my mom. The law come and got her, took her to jail. And then after that, after she goes to jail, a man I never met before in my life pulls up in the driveway and says, "You want to go with me?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll go with you." He said, "You can come live with me and my mom." And so I did. 2 weeks later, we were waiting to get married. Well, all my life, my dad had drew Social Security from me. He had convinced me in my mind that I had abnormality on my brain, that I wasn't smart, that I was stupid, so they could take the money and use it however they wanted to. So whenever this happened, my dad decides to say, "I'm going to commit you," because when drugs would get too bad in my house, the drugs that he gave me, he'd have me committed, and 2 laws would show up with shackles and handcuffs and take me to a rehab. You know, and then they would release me back into the same situation. Here he was with dope right there when I got out. Didn't make much sense. But anyway, this time, when he called the cops to come and get me, they came and got me. I was fixing to get married. Here comes 2 county sheriffs walking down the hall with shackles and handcuffs. And I told my husband, I said, "My dad changed his mind. So they're coming for me." He said, "They're not coming for you." Sure enough, they came and got me. But this time it was different because the rehab that my dad took me to, they had realized that it wasn't me the problem. It was him. So what ended up happening, they told the policeman, "You take her back where you got her, because it's not her, it's her family." But by this time, both of my counselors ended up married. So after that, I ended up, on my honeymoon night, a girl had been telling me she'd been sleeping with me, him, and he was gone. I didn't know where he was at, so I called the girl. Sure enough, he just left there. So he walks in the house, I'm on the phone, I try to push a number. I didn't get to it in time. He pushed redial, found out he was caught, and needless to say, he beat me over the head with the phone. And from that time, I spent a year in that and beating the crap out of me, almost killing me. Which finally I got out of that, ended up in another relationship, which was no better than that, because this guy would sit in front of a PlayStation all day long, never worked. I would work, but as long as he was a good daddy to my kids, I didn't care. But we were doing dope and everything. Well, one night, my brother had a son that was born with spina bifida, completely inside out. Well, one night, I was told by my dad that a man by the name of Benny Hill was going to be at this crusade, and he would heal people. Well, I didn't know nothing about that. I just said, "Okay, well, I want to take Ethan there, my nephew." So me and the guy that I was with at that time, we decided to go. I gave my brother some dope to take my nephew. Well, we're fixing to walk out the threshold of the door, and my nephew goes into a seizure, and he falls out. And that night, we thought he was going to die, but he didn't. But I knew something didn't want me to go. I didn't know what it was, but I went the next night. I wanted to go all the more, but my brother said, "You're not taking Ethan because I'm not losing my son." So I wanted to go that much more after that. So the next night, I end up going back. It just so happens they said the fire marshal, no one can get in. All of a sudden, a Mexican guy walks around and lets us in. We end up right on the bottom feet of Benny Hinn, and I'm there just for my nephew. I'm on dope, I'm all right where I'm at, in my mind. Well, anyway, he says, "If you want to give your life to the Lord, come down here." Well, I don't want to give my life to the Lord at that time, but I wanted my nephew healed, so I went down. Well, it was like I was cemented right there. Well, he calls me up on stage, and I'm sitting here trying to tell him about my nephew, but he don't see my nephew, he sees me. Well, I'm not there for me, so I get offended. But he calls us up on stage, and there's about 150 pastors behind him. And he turns around and he said, "This is your pastor." Well, needless to say, he ends up touching the guy that I was with, and he falls out in the Holy Spirit. Well, at that time, I was unreceptive to anything and you're not going to push me down on the floor. So, and he was flopping around like a fish on the floor, and I didn't want to do that when they're recording it on TV. That just wasn't. So anyway, what ended up happening is that next day we went to church, not knowing that God knew where I was at. I had ended up, the very same place I got my foster parents was the very place that God had told me, this was your pastor. Out of 150 places. But needless to say, that day I dedicated my kids to the Lord. I got married, everything, except I didn't read my Bible. I lived like hell. I still smoked my dope, still went to church on Sunday, praise the Lord. And then it got to where the church people would come be knocking on our door and we'd be hiding. You know, because, I mean, we didn't change. There was no change. Well, right after we had got married, he ended up cheating on me. And when he cheated on me, I quit life. I checked out. I ended up going right to my mom's. Needless to say, my mom, it was my daughter's 3-year-old birthday. And my mom had, I'd asked my mom, I said, Mom, I need a job. I need somewhere I can get a job because I need to get my daughter a birthday present. Oh, I got somewhere for you. I got somewhere, well, not knowing my mama had sold me. At that point, I was only 21. I was naive, didn't know. So this guy starts showing up. I cleaned his shop out and stuff. Well, the next thing you know, this guy's showing me how I can sit in the chair naked, and he's going to take pictures of me, which I don't know why he's taking pictures of me. I have no clue. But it's money. It's easy, you know. So I'm up for it. Well, the next thing you know, one day this guy shows up at my mom's. He said, come go with me. I go with him like usual, but this time he takes me to a house. And in this house was a couple and a guy that I knew had raped women. I knew this guy was no good. I knew he had raped women. Well, anyway, what ended up happening is he leaves, he goes to a store. But this couple, it's like they knew everything about me. And they're saying, oh, we'll help you. Come go with us. Well, it was a setup. Them and that dude started fighting. And that dude's like, you can stay with me. And the couple's like, well, you go with me. Well, I thought, they're husband and wife. They got some kind of morals. Let me go with them. Not knowing. Needless to say, we start getting further away. In my life, nobody would miss me if I was gone. I didn't have anybody. I mean, literally, at that point in my life, I'd been sleeping on a tin cool thing just because I was sick of having to sleep with someone for a place to stay. So I'd pull a big tin cool billboard sign out in the woods and sleep there with the mosquitoes and the birds. But needless to say, that day when I went with them, I started getting further away, and I called my grandfather, and I said, Papa, I don't know where I'm at, but is it okay if I come to you? And he's like, yeah, honey. I said, well, if I don't get there, now you call the cops and look for me, all right, Papa? Okay, honey, I will. Well, they end up taking me to a trailer with a bunch of stuff in it. Well, needless to say, I get a check in my spirit, not knowing it's my spirit, so I'm trying to get out of there. I got a built-in compass. I think I can find my way out of anywhere. So I start walking. Well, they had a little dog, and this little dog started following me. So I think, I don't want their dog to get him. So I'm going to take the dog back. So I take the dog back, and when I took the dog back, they pulled me inside. The woman hit me, and the guy, I don't mean to be vulgar, but the guy was like, woman, you're going to give me some. And about that time, I had all the sexual favors you're ever going to get out of me. You're going to have to kill me. So I said, you want some? Here you go. Bam. I knew they was going to kill me anyway. They already hit me. So I headbutted them, and then they beat me. They beat me so bad. They bit my freaking nose. I got their teeth marks permanently in my nose. They tried to disfigure me. They raped me. There was no white in my eye. It was nothing but blood. Needless to say, they went to sleep. And when they went to sleep, I ran for dear life, butt naked on the side of the road. I looked like an elephant woman. The only way they recognized my bodies was my tattoos. Well, I get better, and I want to know what happened. other people was holding me against my will. So I go to my mama. And when I go to my mama, I asked her, I said, okay, you introduced me to that guy, and they took me over there, so what happened? And her old man said, are you that stupid? You don't know, but she sold you for her dope? And I always carried a knife in my back pocket. And I looked at my mama, and she didn't have any care. And I said, you ask your God to forgive you, because I'm going to cut your throat. And I went to cut her. She stuck her hand in the way, and I cut half her finger off. And needless to say, at that point, I said, you ain't even worth killing. And laid her down. She was already bleeding and stuff, but which was from where I was from, you don't call the law. I took a knife and I seared it and burned it to stop the bleeding. So anyway, what ended up happening after that, when she sold me, I started getting afraid. Well, an AB brother of mine, I ended up using my Social Security check because he owed the dope man money, so I ended up saving his old lady's life because they was going to kill him because he ripped him off of money. So he says, look, I got your back. I'm going to send you to a friend of mine who was Ku Klux Klan, Grand Wizard. He'll protect you, and you take care of him, he'll take care of you. So that dude became my God. He showed up, picked me up. We go over to his house, and by this time we're shooting cocaine and we're shooting meth. I was going over to a cook's house, and he was making meth, and needless to say, I had took a shot of it. It was bad dope, and I literally was burning alive inside. It caught me on fire on the inside, and still too mean to die. I told them, they said, well, we're going to have to amputate your arm. I said, no, you're not. I'm going to die. I'm going to die with my arm. You're not going to amputate. So I wake up and my arm's still attached. And then so what I do is I go shooting in my neck. Shooting anywhere I could. In my knees, anywhere. I look like a walking pincushion. Well, this dude ends up owning a house. Fat boy, owns everything. But in order to come out off the meth, we get pain pills and Xanaxes, and we would get affronted. Well, the guy knew not to go to him, so he comes to me. And he says, hey, these people ripped me off of some dope, so I need you to go back in and go get it. Well, you can keep it, is what he told me. And I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. And so anyway, I go to him and I say, hey, look, I got an idea. We're going to go with these people. They stole some dope for him, and we're going to take it. And he says, well, we're going to have to kill them. And I said, well, we're not God. We can't go killing people. We're just going to rob them. We're going to take that dope they stole. Because in my mind, that was the right thing to do. They stole it. It wasn't theirs anyway. It was mine. So I took it. Needless to say, we ended up in prison. They didn't want to give the dope up. They were beaten. He came in a half inch of his life, where I ended up in the penitentiary for 10 years, aggravated armed robbery. Which during that time, the Lord told me, he said, you went after your other lovers, but yet you forgot me. You would deck yourself in all your jewelry, but yet you forgot me. I'm the one that gave you mercy. He said, I'm the one that gave you new wine. I'm the one that gave you these things. He said, those who have not obtained mercy, I'll give mercy. Those who were not my people will be my people, and I'll be their God. And I thought, how could you be my God? You know where I've been? Do you know what they say about me? Do you not know I lost my kids at CPS? I'm not even human. People drove past me in disgust. How would you want me? Well, what ended up happening is I started, he said, you shall have no other God before me. And I said, God, I don't know how to love you right, but if you show me, I will. But what led up to that is, I'm sorry I'm jumping around, but what led up to that is my grandpa told me when I was in county, if you hang on, if you do right and be good and get out, I'll hang on. But if you don't, then I'm not. I'm giving up. Well, I went down there, was doing my own thing. I was fighting. I wasn't nobody's punk in my mind. I was fighting. They're going to come at me. I'm going to fight them. So I was fighting. I ended up in segregation. My grandma wrote me and said, your papa's dying. His heart's failing him. And I was in that sex cell and I cried out to God. And I said, God, if you save my papa, I will give you my life. And he did. And so I did. and I wasn't going to play games with God no more. So I'd ask God, I said, if you show me how to love you, I will love you. I don't know how to love you. Because in my life, I searched through love through men, through Job, through whatever I could find it. But the one that loved me the most and gave his life for me was him. And when I found that love and I experienced it, there wasn't nothing going to take away from that love. So what ended up happening is I started reading the Bible. And he said, honor your father and your mother that your days may be long. I said, Lord, you know who my parents are? He said, my word ain't conditioned. He said, my word ain't conditioned. I said, well, Lord, I don't know how to love them. But I'll just tell her I'm sorry for trying to kill her. So I wrote her a letter and I said, look, Mom, I'm sorry for trying to kill you. I was wrong. Would you forgive me? She wrote me back, you piece of crap, I hope you die in there. I said, that's it, Lord, I'm cussing her out. I'm going to let her have it. I tried it your way, I didn't get the response I needed, so I'm going to cuss her out. Look what she did to me, Lord. How could you do your kid like that? He said, my word is not conditioned. Honor your father and your mother that your days may be long. The first time in my life, he said, you don't know the fire that she has walked through. And the first time in my life, I didn't know. My mama didn't know how to be a mama. Her mom and dad had left her in the hotels with grown men at 4 or 5 years old, turning tricks for them beer money. She didn't know any better. So the first time in my life, I had compassion on her. And I wrote her a letter that was filled with God's love for her. And I was so grateful I was obedient. Because 3 months later, he told me they found her dead. And I was so grateful. I got my heart right in that. You know, because regardless, it's between you and the Lord. Well, during that time, I allowed the Lord to be my all in all. Well, I started coming up for parole, and I thought, oh, Lord, now, because he did tell me to cut off that guy, now I didn't have anybody to protect me. I know Jesus is supposed to be here, but I can't see him. He ain't got skin on, and I need someone's skin on. And so anyway, I was like, okay, Lord, I need some protection. Well, one night I had a dream, and in my dream, these people were chasing me, and they were going to rape me. And I was hollering, Jesus, Jesus, where are you? Where are you? And just as they reached down to grab me, they said, she's already been bought. She's already been paid for. And it happened again, and I started running, and just my legs were getting heavy. And just as they went, I was hollering, Jesus, Jesus. I was getting mad at them too in my dream. But just as they reached down to grab me, they said, she's already been bought. She's already been paid for. He said, I own you. I purchased you with my son's blood. You are mine. And that's the one realization I knew, that if God be for me, who could be against me? And if I had God, that was more than enough for me. That's all I needed. So from that point, I told the Lord, I was like, Lord, I just want to see somebody. All I see is white and gray. I want to see somebody. So I thought he was going to get my family off dope and bring them down there to see me. Well, it didn't work like that. His ways are not our ways. His are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. So anyway, I'm a chaplain helper during the prison. Well, I'm cleaning up the church, and all of a sudden the sergeant comes in and says, you need to go to contact visitation on a Saturday and clean a water puddle up. Well, anybody who's been in prison knows that that's a security breach. An inmate can't go where inmates are visited. But with God, all things are possible. So anyway, I go in there and I'm cleaning up the water puddle, not knowing. Some of the girls I ministered, they were in there visiting. They were trying to talk to me, and I was disrespectful because I knew what the word said, and I wanted to do it with my whole heart. I wanted to do what God said. That's what matters. What men said didn't matter, but what he said mattered. So I wanted to be obedient to him, so I clean it up and I leave. Well, the next day in church, a girl comes up to me and she's crying. She said, the moment you walked in there, God told my mama to help you. So, needless to say, this woman I didn't even know, when my mama died, she wants to bring my sons and my grandma to come see me. which I tried to tell her the people, my grandma knew the people I used to run with. She won't get in the car with you. You know, she just won't. But she said, I'm going to talk to her, and she did. And so, needless to say, they came and see me. And the first time, which I had already set in my mind, I asked my boys when they come in, because I'd have nightmares. Because, you know, just because you come out of that life doesn't mean it's all great. We didn't get that way overnight. It's little by little He takes things out. And the way He does it is He'll fill you with His love. Where hate was, He'll put love. Where bitterness is, unforgiveness. And He did that little by little. He would fill me with all of Him. So what ended up happening is I got to see my kids when I lost my all CPS rights. I shouldn't have been. But I knew what God had spoken to me because I spent time with Him in His Word. I wanted to know Him. I remember coming to the Lord and I said, God, I don't want to be like everybody else. I don't want to be like my family. I just want to be somebody. I don't want to be a dope fiend. I don't want to live that life. I want to be somebody else. And the one thing He told me, because I started trying to get my GED so I could try to be somebody, and I just couldn't learn like people could learn. And the Lord told me, seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added. So I did. I got up in the morning, I'd read my Bible, and I just tried my best. And all of a sudden, I started learning stuff. Well, needless to say, I ended up, I got accepted to this halfway house because I knew I couldn't go back to where I was from. And it was Manasseh, which anyone who knows who Manasseh is, which is Joseph's firstborn son, which means God made me forget all my affliction and all my father's house. So I knew this was definitely where I was supposed to go, because I'm supposed to forget all my father's house and just go on about my life. Well, it didn't work out that way. I was accepted, but then when I come up for parole, they said, which the Lord had already told me, because in Jeremiah 29:11 it says, the plans I have for you are good and not evil, to give you a future and a hope and expected end. But down below that it says, you will return to the place in which you were held captive. I said, devil, you are a liar. I ain't going back there. I'm supposed to be going to Manasseh. You know, God made me forget all my father's house and all my affliction. And He says, apparently I wasn't. They said, you're going to have to go back to where you came from. Needless to say, second day I was out. Well, while I was in prison, the Lord told me my children would be taught by Him, and great would be their peace and undisturbed composure. Well, when I get out, my boys are addicted to dope. Same thing I was. Instead of honoring the thing that the court ordered right, because when I terminated my rights, it was due my father not to have no contact. But they didn't honor that. So when I get out, my boys are addicted to dope. The second day I was out, my oldest one tried to stab my youngest son, and I got stabbed. And I kept saying, all my children are taught by the Lord, great is their peace and undisturbed composure. Needless to say, the very thing I feared came upon me. My dad ended up raping my son while I'm out. My son's 21. I told my husband, Mark, I said, I'm going to do a turnaround. I'm going to go kill him. And I'm going to do prison ministry for the rest of my life. Hallelujah. I mean, really, I'm just going to get rid of him. And my husband looked at my son and he said, Mama, please don't. I don't want to lose you, Mama. And so I said, well, if we're not going to kill him, we got to forgive him. Either way, you can either go both ways. You're either going to forgive him and we're going to settle this, or we're not. Well, I forgave him, but my son didn't. He kicked in the door and tried to kill him, beat him. And then my son was arrested, which, praise God for His mercy, He ends up dismissing my son's charges. You know, so literally God causes all things to work together for the good for those who love the Lord and are called. And the one thing I would encourage y'all is just seek ye first His kingdom. Get to know Him. You know, take that time, because in life it's so busy and there's so many things to grab a hold of, but the only thing that matters is Him and that Word. That Word. Our words mean nothing. His word means everything. His word will not return void, but it will accomplish and prosper in the very thing that it sent it. If you have unforgiveness in your heart, let it go. Let it go. There's no offense worth it. It gives you cancer. It hurts your physical body. Let it go. Ain't nothing worth that. Nothing. But the one thing I would encourage you, get to know Jesus. If you don't know him, oh, he's vital. The Bible says, abide in him. Let his word abide in you. Whenever I got out and I went to get a job like the pastor said, people thought I was going to stick them up. I thought, what the heck? I'm here to get a job. I'm a new creation in him. Old things have passed away. All things have become new. Why don't you see me new? Why? Because the handwriting of ordinances by men. They stick. Men don't ain't as forgiving as God does. But it don't matter. Our job is to forget those things which are behind and press forward into the high calling of God. That one thing, it's like Paul said, the one thing I determined is to know him. The power of his resurrection, the fellowship of his suffering. And that's the one thing I encourage y'all. If you got anger, hate in your heart, let it go. It ain't nothing worth it. God's a reconcile. And if God can take someone like me and forgive me of my death, I tried to kill my mama. That's one of the top commands. Honor with a promise behind it. Honor your father and your mother that your days may be long. For real. I mean, when I look at, I didn't deserve his mercy, but when I felt his love, the one thing, it's like Pastor said, the one thing that the Lord said, when you've done unto the least of these, you've done unto me. Well, I was one of the least of these. But thank Jesus. It's like Paul said, I crucify my flesh daily. Yet not I live, but Christ lives in me. And the life that I now live, I live through the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. That's what it's about. There's things in their trials that come in life, but my God says, when you walk through the fire, you'll not be burned. He says, the many will fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. Because you can go out, you can do what you were doing before. Guess what the Lord told me? He said, what fruit do you have in those things where you are now ashamed of? Because the end of those things is death. Regardless whether you believe them or not. It's a law of sowing and reaping. Well, I know I spent 27 years of my life living for the devil. So the next, however long I got, I'm going to spend it living for him. Amen. So I thank y'all, and here's our wonderful pastor.
Junk. You know what we need is more down-to-earth speaking. When she says, I just had so much crap in my life and I just wanted to bite her nose. Well, let's just either kill them or forgive them. That's pretty honest, Sad thing is, everything she went through, as far as hating folks or not liking folks, whether we want to admit or not, we got that same hate in us toward people, what they've done to us. You say, yeah, but not as bad as what she's. Well, we may not have walked the road she's walked. But every one of us, inside of us, know the impurities that are there. God knows those impurities, and God wants to take those away from us. He wants to forgive us. And she's right. It doesn't matter how many PhDs you have behind your name. A DD, a PhD, a MD, whatever you got, God doesn't care about that. What he cares is, do you know me? Do you know my son Jesus? Some of us know the Lord, but we've walked away from him. We've forgotten all about His love and His caring for us. And what we need is to come back to the Lord in the same way she's come back to the Lord. And to have the same fervor for the Lord that she has for the Lord. Listen, guys, no matter how much hate you got, no matter who's wronged you, what mama, what daddy, probably none of them sold you for their dough. Probably none of them tried to drown you when you were born. You know, if God can be the God of the impossible, that can take that impossible situation and make it possible for her to come into a loving relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ and find joy in living